Hey guys, welcome in. I hope everybody's been doing wonderful per usual. Today's video is going to be a continuation of the last, well, I won't say continuation of the last, the other part, right? So I did a video giving healthy tips. I think it was like 3 or 4 of them. And then I said I was going to break down each tip. So I'm on tip number 2. If you haven't seen the previous videos, please feel free to go back and watch so you understand what the heck I'm talking about. So for today's video, we're going to talk about the communication is key piece. This is a big one. So just like last time, I got my handy dandy notebook because I do not have my cue cards yet. I keep forgetting to go get some, at least, like, what you call them? Flashcards? Yeah, I can get some, but I keep forgetting to get them. So until then, I'm gonna use them because I want to stay on track. I want to make sure that I'm covering the things, and it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. I'm not gonna be able to cover these things in depth. Like each of these topics could have their own hour worth conversation, TED talk, back and forth, all the things, or even longer, depending on the different things that you're curious about. So as always, I'm open to y'all asking me questions if you have more concerns, but these are things that I can think of that apply when I address these concerns. So it's not limited to these things. There could be other parts of it that are more expensive. I'm just going over what comes straight off the dome, okay? So for today, like I said, we're going to talk about communication being key. And that one is always so layered. Every time I work with couples or even individuals with this, they're shocked at how many things we need to consider when we're communicating with someone. Like most of us, when we're taught, if anybody addresses the way that you communicate, they say, watch your tone and watch what you say, right? That seems to be a given in most cases. It is far more complicated than just that. Those two are very, very important things. But you also need to consider your timing. It's not always a good time to bring everything up. Think about the worst day you've ever had. And then you are met with a conversation that is very weighty or heavy or triggering, and that person didn't check in with you before that, right? It just piles on to an already really, really bad day. That's just one example. There are many ways that timing could not be the best. So it's important to kind of balance it out. You don't want to wait too long, right? Because sometimes there are certain topics, it's like, it's never a right time to bring it up, but you gotta just do your best and check in with the person that you're trying to talk to figure out what time it looks like, given the topic, right? While I'm on that piece, this just popped in my head. I don't even think I wrote this down. In terms of timing, be considerate of other people's struggles, feelings, and emotions, right? Give you an example. It's not ideal for you to come to somebody who is a little bit anxious or an overthinker and be like, hey, when you get a chance later, I have to talk to you about something. Okay, you're considering timing and the fact that it's not an immediate conversation, but it needs to be talked about later. And you just planted a seed that causes anxiousness for no reason, right? So it's better for you to say, hey, later I would like to talk about that argument we had yesterday. Is that okay with you? Like, yeah, so they have some context and they're not combing through their head of like, what could it possibly be? What happened now? It's distracting. So things like that also play into timing. Just a tidbit, kind of a sidebar, part A, whatever you want to call it, of that. But it's something that you should consider. What else we were talking about? Just tone. Tone is one that people assume is only if it's aggressive. You can be monotone and sound uninterested, and that can cause tension or confusion. You can also your tone can be sarcastic, and it's just inappropriate depending on the conversation that you're having. Your tone can be aggressive. Tones can be belittling. And these are just negative tones that I'm listening that you kind of want to avoid. There are positive tones, obviously. We want to You're not going to be bright and happy-go-lucky with every conversation that you have. But in those cases, when it's, you're angry or it's a weighted conversation, try your absolute best to have a neutral tone. If you can, there's just some things that are just understandable. Like, you're going to be mad about some stuff that is just like, ain't no way around that. And it's going to be read in your tone. Just same with sadness, right? I'm not asking you to pretend, but these are things to be cognizant of when you're having conversations and you're communicating with other people. That's my whole point with this, with all of these things. What else? Volume, that's a given. Don't be yelling at folks. And being passionate about something doesn't mean that you're not yelling. So you could be like talking very loud. Like if I'm doing this, I'm talking loud. I'm not mad. But to someone else, that could be triggering, right? So just watch your volume, especially if you're noticing they don't really take too kindly of it. Body language, that's one you have to know. You have to be aware of your own, and you have to be observant of others, right? Body language can tell you a lot about where someone is at. You can have dismissive body language and appear to be uninterested in what someone is saying, intentionally or unintentionally. And again, it could cause additional conflict or more tension, or just the person to feel like you don't care what they're saying or anything like that. Your body language can be aggressive. Like if you're doing a lot of eye rolling, for my ladies, hand clap, hand clapping, finger pointing, like you can have aggressive body language. You can have an aggressive stance. Like some of those are harder to describe, but if like you've seen aggressive body language or body language that's made you uncomfortable enough to know, like, probably shouldn't do this in conversation with somebody, especially if we're in the middle of conflict and trying to resolve something. So things to consider. Other people's body language. Try to notice when somebody's uncomfortable, and it's hard. It is. I'm not going to play it like it's easy. It's something that I do all day, every day, right? I'm a therapist. So I have to be observant of people's body language when we're having certain conversations, because it helps me with pacing. I'm not going to say I've grown numb to some things, but there's some body language that I expect. Like, okay, if we're talking about something traumatic, I expect to see some anxious body language, right? And it can help me gauge the pace of the conversation, or if we need to stop or slow down or adjust or shift, as well as like breathing and things of that nature, right? I'm not asking you to learn to be an expert, but if you can pick up like when your partner's anxious, or even with your friend, all these are applicable to anybody that you're talking to. If you can pick up like their breathing is picking up, or they might be fidgeting a little bit more with their hands, or it might be harder for them to make eye contact. They're clearly uncomfortable, and if you're not understanding what that discomfort is and knowing how to handle that, it's okay to pause and ask questions. So you being invested in the person that you're talking to and understanding that is important is the point I'm trying to make, and what levels what that looks like, essentially. So it can be effective. And if you're not sure, it's always okay to ask, or even point out like, hey, your body language makes me feel like you don't care what I'm talking about, or your body language is a bit aggressive and it's making me anxious and I'm not able to fully like get out my thoughts. Those sort of things. I don't want to see the points too. What else? Of course, your words. Just be mindful of your words. Like we could go on and on and on about what that looks like, but I think everybody has experienced somebody that has said something to them that has made them very uncomfortable or stuck with them for life, and it's caused emotional scarring. So you don't want to be the person doing that. So just slow down enough to choose your words wisely. And if you make a mistake, because you're going to, we're human, apologize. Apologize, correct it, clear things up. Don't be too prideful to not do that. Considering capacity, that's a big one, because it's hard to do, and it's only hard because there's some of us who want to finish a conversation and have it done. Considering capacity and timing go hand in hand, and what I mean by that is, yes, checking in to see if the person like has the emotional space to have the conversation, and recognizing in the conversation when things need to slow down, pause, or just stop for that time being so you can reconvene. Because if someone's getting overly emotional or overly angry, spiraling, whatever, the conversation is no longer effective. Nothing is being solved. Now y'all are just emoting and it's not really helpful. So that's what I mean by capacity. Just consider that. And for yourself, like, it's being aware of yourself, but also observant of the other person and just saying, hey, being willing to adjust. So if somebody's calling you out on something you're doing in the middle of a conversation that is making them uncomfortable, you can have the mindset of this is just the way that I am and how I show up, but it's more than likely going to hinder the conversation going anywhere, anything being effective. Just give you that off rip. It's going to shut things down, or that person's going to shut down and you're not really going to get as far as you would like to. So it's probably best to just listen and try to adjust whatever it is that it could be. It could be your tone. It could be what you said. It could be all the things that I listed just before. And they're like, hey, do you mind if you stop yelling at me? And rather than arguing of, I'm not yelling, I'm passionate, just be mindful of your volume and try to bring it down, right? Just an example. Knowing how the other person gives and receives communication is also a piece that nobody thinks of. I won't say nobody, but most people don't think about. And it's also understanding how you give and receive communication. And that one is layered on its own. And quick examples I could give you with that is just understanding someone may be more verbose and you're going to have to listen to key parts to understand what they're actually saying, or even let them know like, hey, I need some clarification here because you lost me in, your expression of a thing. Someone also might be, very short to the point and you need more details, and you have to be prepared to kind of, I don't know another word to say besides deal with that. Because if you get mad every 5 seconds because of how somebody's communicating, you're going to hit roadblocks too, and you're not really going to get anywhere. And it comes with timing and just practice and consistent interactions with these people to understand, like, how can I fine tune my level of communication to match the needs of this person and vice versa. That's what that looks like. Almost done. Understanding when humor is okay is a big one, because some people do it out of nervousness. Some people do it to try to lighten the mood, and it just upsets the other person. And you have to know, and again, this comes from emotional equity with this person of knowing like when humor is okay, when it's not. You can ask, you can invisibly see, like you tell a joke and they're like, ain't nothing funny. Like, maybe tone down on the jokes, right? Those sort of things. Knowing when sarcasm is okay. Some people are cool with it. Like, some people arguably say sarcasm is their love language. I beg to differ and have my own thoughts and opinions about that. But if you are dealing with someone who identifies with that, y'all have to have an understanding of when that's okay and when it's not. And a rule of thumb might be, when we're having a serious conversation, I just prefer you not be sarcastic. Easy enough. Easier said than done for that person. But, just being clear about that so that it doesn't muddy the waters and cause an even bigger argument than necessary. Knowing what topics need to be handled with care. That's going to vary. There are some that are general, and then person to person, people have different sensitivities based on the experiences that they've had, based on the traumas that they've been through, based on their thought process about something. Like, people are just more sensitive about certain topics than others. And it's important to figure out what those are so that when those topics do have to be discussed, that they're able to be handled with care and intentionality so that harm isn't intentionally caused when you're having these conversations. That's all. Understanding someone else's apology language. Like, we talk about love languages all the time. Like, that's become a trendy thing. Whoop! Caribbean. That's become a trendy thing. I don't even know where that came from. That's become a trendy thing for people to discuss and to talk about. But nobody talks about apology languages, and people have different apology languages, and it's important to make sure the way that you apologize registers with that person, right? And it actually being an apology. Because I'm sorry I made you feel that way, that's not an apology, right? And sometimes you just saying, well, I'm sorry, it doesn't register for that person, and it's not enough. And this one is tricky, because you have to care enough about that person to really just adjust the way that you're showing up with that. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a married couple, and one of them, I think it was a husband actually. He didn't feel like an apology was given unless it was made clear what the apology was being for, right? So if wife just was like, well, I'm sorry. In his mind, he did say this in some instances, which would cause arguments. Sorry for what? Like, thinking. So, and it doesn't register as an apology unless, like, he hears, hey, I'm sorry that I spoke to you that way, and I should blah, 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 blah. Right? That is how he felt accountability was being had. It's like you identified how you hurt me or you offended me, and you're apologizing for that thing and not giving me just a generic apology. That was him. And many people identify with that. Some people are okay with you just simply saying the words, I apologize, or I am sorry. So you have to know who you're dealing with, know who you're talking to. Other people take it a different level. Some people need that, and they want some type of gesture or some time spent that kind of like resets the connection and mood between you and that person. You got to know who you're dealing with. That's what that boils down to. Not being afraid to ask questions or speak your mind. Now, there's a caveat to this one, so I'm gonna come back to that. Before that can be a thing that is done effortlessly and without like harm or hindrance, you have to also create a safe space and environment for that to be done. So it's on both parties, and all that is determined by how you handle everything else I just mentioned, as well as how you deal with this person and handle this person on a regular basis. If they tell you something vulnerable, are you using it against them, or are you telling people who don't need to be involved in the situation, spreading their business, like anything like that? That's not going to create a safe space for you. There was someone I'll give you an example. There was someone in my life who's still in my life, but they didn't understand that. They would always say, well, you could talk to me about anything. Sure, except I know if I talk to you about this, you're gonna tell X amount of people and think it's okay because you're close to them and they won't say anything. I don't agree with that. That, to me, that's not a safe space. Safe space is knowing I can come to you in confidentiality and I can express myself fully, knowing it's gonna be between us, or if it does have to leave us, we're agreeing with the parties at hand that need to hear about whatever's being discussed, right? So, example of that, if you have a husband and wife and they're talking about something, it might be agreed upon that the party at hand that can hear about the situation might be the person's therapist, might be the person's spiritual advisor, because that's who they get guidance from in handling a situation or a circumstance. A non-trusted member or party might be another family member or a specific friend or anything like that. So you have to even communicate about that, and just making sure that you're doing everything that you can to make the other person feel comfortable and confident that they can express themselves and not be judged or harmed in the process of doing so. And so if that's established, then you can make room and make way for, hey, I have something to say, or I have a question to ask, and you go about those things using everything else that we just talked about. So that's a lot, and I'm pretty sure I missed something. If you know you have questions about something that I didn't mention, as usual, I want you to ask me. Comments, DMs, all those things. But that is a pretty solid list of things for you to consider, because I know most people don't consider those things when they're talking to other folks. And it's another reason why people run away from it, because it's just like, dang, that's a lot. But when you do it habitually, it's like second nature to you. It takes practice, and that requires you to not be avoidant. It requires you to not run away from conversation or conflict and to try to face it head on. You're going to mess up. You are going to get it wrong when you're practicing these new things. But the importance is that you keep showing up and you keep trying to adjust and fine tune things so that the consistency creates a better flow and ease for you and everyone that you're talking to and in a relationship with, right? So I hope that helps, guys. I know that was wordy, but yeah. Until next time, control the controllables and be the best version of you that you can be every day. Bye, guys.